Hey, good morning everyone. Hey, I woke up this morning. It's a rainy day. Hoping I'll be able to get out and maybe get this video uploaded and recharge my computer pretty soon, efficiently. But hey, I was just thinking about this, and it pertains to the Acrolish of LOVE that I've come up with, which is basically a programming language, sort of, depending on how you want to look at it. And then yesterday, I think it was, I posted a video from the Diehold Foundation, and what's his name, Vogt, whatever. But we're kind of thinking along the same lines, him and I. And he's been at it for a while, figuring something out. And basically, it's, we're living in this synchronistic environment, run by a computer, basically. Now, I'm going to try to make this quick because I don't want to use up all my charge on the computer, the laptop. But consider this. If you look in the Acrolish of LOVE, there's an acronym in there called WAR, W-A-R. And I defined that acronym as wasting allocated resources. Okay, so think of that as, we think of war, there's a bunch of fighting, a lot of destruction going on and whatnot, and there's really no benevolent clarity in war. Okay, everything is the resources, the energies that go into keeping that conflict going, or what have you, which would be very easily adjusted, or what have you, to a more clear understanding of what's going on. A clarity. And what that war, the wasting of allocated resources, is doing, basically, is creating a static. Okay? Now, as we progress and things become more and more, and we understand more and more about our environment and everything being, digital as far as electronics and such go, well, digital, it either works or it doesn't. Okay, there's no in between there. Now, if you consider back, and as long as wars have been going on, and up until recently, the past couple of decades, we had broadcast television. Okay, broadcast television and radio and such. And you have to tune in to the channel that signal is being broadcast on. And on either side of that channel, you have static, right? You have static. This white noise, or what have you. On the television, you see it as, we call it snow on the television screen. Now, if you think now with digital satellite TV and digital television signals and all, how every now and then there's no static. I mean, either there's a signal or there's not. And if it's a weak signal, it's sort of like static, but how you get the pixelation in the picture? Okay, that is wasting allocated resources. It's not tuned in to or focus to get a clear signal. So I'm going to throw this out there, and maybe some people will pick up on it. Maybe it'll be understood. But also with the Diehold Foundation, and I think he makes a lot of sense, but I also think that he has inadvertently revealed something that's been going on for a long, long time. And that is that if what he's saying about Moses and whatnot, and Moses knowing, figuring out, how this system basically operates and works, it would make sense to me, and it does make sense to me, that nefarious, and I'm not saying this is a whole racial group or anything like that, but what I'm saying is that there are individuals out there, there may be a group out there that understand how and have understood kind of how this system works for a long time. And in order for them to, and this is from a, I would think from a, me thinking from somebody having a nefarious agenda, okay, to be able to control what this system is doing, but they don't quite understand everything about the system, okay? And it has been put upon the people for a long time that with their and it's been done with a lack of their understanding or knowledge, a thorough knowledge of how this works, how the system works. It has been put upon the people as there were a certain a few people that knew how it worked, and they were trying to steer humanity in a certain way so that they could always remain in power. And again, I'm not saying that this is consciously done by a lot of people, but there are a few people that have been able to persuade the thoughts and the beliefs in such a way that it's almost, it gets the people to thinking in a certain way, and then it's damn near impossible to correct the course of humanity. And I'll just leave it at that. But war is wasting allocated resources. Now, in his latest Diehold, the latest video that I think it was recorded or posted on May 3rd of 2019, he was alluding to the fact that, or he was actually, outright said that Moses, and when the Jewish people were wandering in the desert for 40 years or whatever, that they had actually found some type of environment area that provided them with a suspension of animation. Okay, this area where time within that environment, time slowed down, and and everything outside of that environment continued on at a normal pace. And that's how they were able to avoid any kind of cataclysm or what have you. That's why their clothes didn't wear out, their shoes didn't wear out and whatnot after 40 years of wandering around in the desert. Okay, so using, and so he's saying that there is a place, or there is a way that can that these catastrophic events can be avoided, or at least avoided. You know, not I don't really know what I want to say about that, but it's there is a way to suspend time, okay, or slow it down, or what have you, and it's in a and it would be in an environment that everything else outside of that environment continues to progress, you know, the way it's progressing, but everything that's within that suspended environment, that altered environment, kind of just kind of slows down, and it's sort of protected, sort of like a cell, you know, within a larger body that is protected. Within that cell, it's protected, and that larger body goes ahead and goes through whatever it's going through, and then this cell comes out, or after, you know, at a certain actuation point or whatever, when the people come out, or whatever it is comes out of that cell, time has passed, and say this wars and what have you and whatever have already taken place and whatever, so the people come out of this cell and they're able to continue on, and if they are knowing of that this particular operation, you know, how it operates, then they can continue and go about and do their business, and they can basically you know, mold that outside environment outside of that cell to what they want, you know, and how they want it to work to a certain degree within the laws of the the operating, as he said at Diehold, the operating system, God. He calls the operating system God. And so, and what kind of made me think also, and within a computer, you know, as we know the computer, you know, about how the computer operates or whatever, you have this thing called RAM, and it's, you know, in computer speak, it's random access memory. But if you take that and think of it along the terms of what I've done with the Acrolish of LOVE, or Enoch's plan to escape Plato's cave, that RAM, RAM, could be an acronym for something else, like reserved archived memory or something like that. But the way it was explained on Diehold, he explained it on Diehold Foundation video, was that that's like when you copy text from a you know, from a file or whatever on the screen, or a digital image or whatever, and it goes to what we call a clipboard. Well, it's held in that RAM memory, and in that RAM memory, there's really no time being timed. Isn't there's no effect from time in this random access memory, which would be like this environment of a suspended animation or whatever. And then, you know, you pull up your document or whatever it is, your text file or whatever, and you paste, okay, onto that or into that file, and then once that happens, then that text file or image file, whatever it is, then becomes affected by the passage of what we consider time, you know, the linear progression of time. So, and then if you look at all the occult stuff and everything, well, what's the big thing? What's Baal or whatever? they've got the ram head or whatever. And this goes along my same thought process, discipline that I'm thinking that, okay, well, there's a key there, and it's been in front of us the whole time. Now, I think that there are a few people that understand sort of how this operates, but it's not being let out. So over time, what's happened, and I think this computer language is really, it's English. And as he's saying about the Torah and the Hebrew language and all that, yeah, that that language, the symbols for it is the toroidal representation of a certain energy or flow of energy within the toroidal system. That voila, a la the Torah. Okay, the toroidal. If you take the toroidal, and that's supposed to be, the key to energy and everything. And I've also covered that the Jews is an acronym for Yugos, which is continuous energy watcher. Okay, a continuous energy guard. Okay, so if you go back to time, back when all this stuff was starting to come out, then that's what it is. And it was originally an English language, and it got translated for, I guess, for the reason to keep this language safe or whatever. But it was a long time ago, and then people, somebody discovered this stuff, and they didn't understand it quite well enough, but now I think it is understood, and it wasn't Hebrew at all. It was based on English language, and so that also for me leads to that it was an English-based system that was developed with English language, and it has been misunderstood, I'll say, without getting too snarky about it. But it was originally based on English. It was translated and encoded or ciphered by different types of shapes of characters, the representations of what basically was originally an English language. And so that just goes to I think further convince me that this is the simulation system or whatever, and there are people that understand enough about it, that understand how the things can be programmed, and it's being programmed to their advantage rather than to the advantage of the whole. It's just, they're trying to take control of it, and they have for a while, I think, to a certain degree, and so that we're thinking of it totally ass backwards. Generally, the general public and the understanding of all this, the static that has been produced, and when you have static, you don't get a clear signal, okay? You don't get a clear signal. You get this snow on the television screen, you get this, sound, you can't understand it or whatever. That's what's happened. So I would say look to the Acrolish of LOVE for an idea. Look through some of the and fear. See, fear keeps this staticky, and it's a diversion for it's like static. It's a diversion of clarity. Okay, and this is how everything's connected. From the from the manifestation of the unseen things, that's all around us, with DNA and the platonic solids and the sound frequencies and all of that work together and come together and form a solid material world as we know it. And what we don't see, these thoughts and everything that are being projected out into the environment by people. So if there's a lot of static there, everything that's and there's no clarity, and we our brains, the way we've been conditioned to think and educated to think, we're creating our own static, our own filter of static when we look at the world and think of the world outside of ourselves. Okay? So I just wanted to get this out there. I'll try to expand on it. But I think this is what's happened. The system was discovered. Something about the systems were, this simulation system was discovered. It was deciphered or decoded or whatever in a way. And I think that there are a few people that figured out what it was, and then they have since then, and I'm not saying it's just one racial group or one one ethnic group or one religious group or whatever. I'm saying that there were some nefarious people, and it could have been innocently done by misinterpretation, but I think that over time it has been realized, and it's being used, that knowledge is being used in such a way to hoodwink the entire globe. And I honestly feel that with a better comprehension of the functions, the processing, and the programming of the language that keeps this simulation going, that these catastrophic events, that we're hearing about, Planet X coming through, meteorites coming in, smashing the Earth, and solar flares, and all this stuff, that's war. That's a form of war that's wasting the allocated resources for our environment that we could be creating in more of a fashion of a benevolent and beneficial environment for everyone involved. And so, yeah, please think about it. This is Sunday morning, and it's about 8 o'clock or so, and I'm going to try to get this uploaded and whatever later today, if it stops raining. So think about this. This is a very big deal, and it's very plausible. If you have followed the logic and the reasoning of what I've put out there, and go look at what the Diehold Foundation, what he's put out there. I think he's taken a slightly discriminatory perspective on explaining without including the possibilities. If it isn't, what he's saying, an operating system, he's still only coming from, with his perspective that he's coming from is still limited by only just 2,000 years or whatever, and he's put this information out that he thinks that there's a cycle. Yeah, I think there's a cycle as well, but he's limiting it. There are no limits if we understand what's going on. And if there's just a bunch of static, if there's more static being transmitted out there then the signal is much weaker than it would be if there was focus, and you get the clarity of the signal and the information that's being transmitted. And so I think we need to go a little further back and have a little bit broader understanding of what's actually happened and what's going on now. So y'all have a blessed day. Thanks a lot for listening. Hope some of y'all, well, shit, I hope everybody that would see it would understand what I'm saying. But yeah, y'all take care. Let me get this plugged in. Yeah, there we go. All right, y'all have a good one. Appreciate you creating the time to watch this video and listen to what I had to say. And again, look through the Diehold information. Foundation information. I've put a playlist on my YouTube channel of his videos. You can go to his video channel, which is the Diehold Foundation, and also please check out my Acrolish of Love, or Enoch's Plan to Escape Plato's Cave, and look at the lexicon that I've drawn up there, and it's at the yes you are, yes comma space capital letter U space capital letter R on Facebook group, and it's in the files section. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Goodbye.